He saw things no human being had ever seen. He saw the throne, the angels, the codes. He saw the end. Book of Revelation by John, the beloved disciple.
The hidden Torah.
Have you ever felt that something is deeply wrong with the world, but you just can't explain it? As if something is about to happen, and your soul already knows? Then listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you, this isn't religion. It's revelation. Almost no one talks about this. But John, yes, the same John, the beloved disciple, was exiled to a place called Patmos. They threw him there thinking they had silenced him, that by isolating him they could erase him from history. But it was in that place of silence that the heavens opened. And here's what most people miss. John was silenced by men, but awakened by God. You remember how the Torah speaks again and again about exile? About how the divine reveals himself in the desert, in isolation, at the edge? The sages in the Talmud say the Shekhinah never leaves someone in exile. On the contrary, she draws nearer. And that's exactly what happened to John. What looked like the end was actually the beginning of something that would change everything. He saw things no human had ever seen. He saw the throne, the angels, the hidden scrolls. He saw the end, but it wasn't an end like in the movies. It was the end already whispered in the ancient scrolls. The Zohar speaks of hidden cycles in history, how the soul of the world moves in spirals. John was witnessing one of those cycles closing, and a new one beginning. And now I have to ask you, do you think all of this was just for him, or was it written for you? Maybe, like John, you're also in a kind of exile, feeling cut off, uncertain, voiceless. But what if this is the very moment when God wants to reveal something to you? John heard a voice, loud like many waters, and that same voice is still echoing for those who have ears to hear. The throne and the Lamb, the book no one could touch. Can you imagine what John saw when the heavens truly opened? He didn't just see light, he saw the throne. A throne so radiant, it burned into his eyes. Surrounding it, 24 elders dressed in white and crowned, as if representing every generation before the presence. And 4 living creatures, indescribable, crying without rest, "Holy, holy, holy." But in the center of it all, something made him tremble. In God's right hand was a scroll, sealed with 7 seals, a scroll that held the destiny of the world. But no one was worthy to open it. Not in heaven, not on earth, not beneath the earth. John wept. He wept like someone who senses the collapse of all hope. Because if no one could open that scroll, then the story would remain unresolved. Justice would never come. The promise would never be fulfilled. The sages of the Torah teach, when there is no one to reveal, the truth falls asleep. But John's weeping was interrupted. One of the elders approached and whispered, "Do not weep. The Lion of the tribe of Judah has triumphed." But when John looked up, he didn't see a lion. He saw a lamb, wounded, slain, standing. The Zohar says the lamb is the one who descended into the lower world to rewrite creation's destiny. That lamb took the scroll, and everything changed. Heaven began to sing a new song, not of war, but of redemption. He was found worthy because he gave his life to redeem every tribe, every soul. And in that moment, John saw, the end of the world begins with a lamb. If this stirred something in you, subscribe now, and turn on the bell. There are still many seals left to open. The riders are already riding. Signs few can see. Have you ever felt like the world is being driven by forces no one can control? John saw exactly that, but with the eyes of the soul. When the Lamb began opening the seals, something deep was revealed, not only in heaven, but also on earth. The Torah already teaches, what is above reflects what is below, Bereshit Rabbah. So what John saw wasn't fiction. It was a spiritual mirror of our own time. The first rider came on a white horse. At first glance, he looked like a king, noble, just triumphant, but something was off. He didn't carry truth, but illusion. The sages call this Sheker Meliabash Bemet, a lie dressed in truth. He promised peace, but brought control. His weapon was deception. Then came the second rider on a red horse. His sword was great, but his thirst was greater. He wasn't bringing justice. He came to stir chaos. In the Talmud, Sanhedrin 9:7b, there's a sign of the end called Mashlakat She'ina Leshem She'ema'im, conflict not for the sake of heaven. That's exactly what this rider brought. War that devours families, nations, and the peace of the soul. The third horse was black, silent, heavy. He carried a scale, but it wasn't for justice, it was for imbalance. The famine he brought wasn't just of the body, it was of the soul. A hunger for truth, for meaning, for something money can't buy. And the few who had bread kept it to themselves. The last rider was the coldest of all. A pale, almost greenish color, the color of death. He didn't shout. He just came and took. The Midrash says, death doesn't knock, it knows the shortcuts to the door. This rider didn't arrive suddenly. He was already here, disguised as normal life. The forgotten cry. Voices beneath the altar. John heard something most people still ignore today. It wasn't thunder or cries of condemnation. They were voices beneath the heavenly altar. Souls who had been killed for the sake of truth. And what they were saying wasn't a complaint. It was a call. These voices were pleading for justice. They cried, "How long, O Lord, holy and true, until you judge and avenge our blood?" They were the martyrs, real people who gave their lives rather than deny the name. The Talmud Avodah Zarah 1:8a speaks of souls who keep teaching even after death. John recognized some faces. James beheaded, Andrew crucified, Thomas pierced, Bartholomew flayed. Names written in the pages of history, but still alive in eternity. The sages say, the blood of the righteous cries out from the ground, Genesis 4:10. Now it cries out from heaven too. But notice, God doesn't respond with instant revenge. He gives each of them a white robe, and he says, rest just a little longer. Judgment will come, but in the right time, in the perfect cycle. The Midrash teaches that divine delay is never denial. It's preparation. Maybe you're hearing that cry now. Maybe it's echoing inside you, because the voices of the martyrs haven't gone silent. They're still speaking, still warning. And only those who listen with the heart will understand what they're still asking for. When heaven stopped, the silence before the final trumpet, there was a moment when heaven stopped. Everything went silent. It wasn't the absence of sound. It was a silence that carried weight, as if the entire universe was holding its breath. John felt it and wrote that the silence lasted half an hour. But what does that mean? The sages in the Talmud, Chagaga 5b, say that silence in heaven only happens before something terrible or glorious. It's the pause before judgment. The Zohar calls this moment the dimension between worlds, where the soul feels everything, but cannot speak. It's the point where the decree is about to be sealed. 7 angels were ready, each holding a trumpet. Each blast would strike the very structure of the earth, but before the sound there was preparation. An angel came forward with a golden censer, filled with the prayers of the righteous. Yes, your prayers, your tears, your forgotten midnight words. The incense rose before God, and then the censer was thrown to the earth. Thunder followed, voices, lightning, earthquake. It was as if heaven declared, now the time has come. The silence wasn't passivity. It was judgment approaching in a whisper. The same Torah that pleads for mercy also carries the weight of justice. Can you feel that silence? Maybe you're living in it right now. That moment when everything seems still, but something great is about to happen. In that silence, don't ignore the inner voice, because it's in that stillness that the trumpet begins to vibrate. The woman, the dragon, and the child. The mystery of the eternal conflict after the silence. John sees a scene that feels like a dream or an ancient memory. A woman appears, clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, 12 stars upon her head. She is in labor, about to give birth, but something waits in the shadows. A red dragon, enormous, with 7 heads and 10 horns. Its eyes burn with hatred. Its mouth is wide open. It waits. It wants to devour the child the moment he is born. It's the same pattern the Torah showed us since Eden. The serpent against the promise. This conflict isn't new, but now it's reaching its climax. The sages interpret the woman as a symbol of Israel, the people who carry the seed of redemption, and the child, the Messiah, is the fulfillment of the eternal plan. The Zohar teaches that before every true deliverance, darkness tries to stop the birth of light. But there is an unseen hand, a divine intervention. The child is caught up to God. The dragon fails, rages, but cannot touch him. The woman flees into the wilderness where she is sustained. Like the children of Israel in the Exodus, she is protected in a hidden place. And John understands the wilderness is not abandonment. It is refuge. Maybe you are that woman, or maybe you feel the dragon drawing near. But if the promise has been conceived within you, it will not be destroyed. The Torah assures us, every light that comes from Haktim is stronger than the darkness trying to extinguish it. The birth pains are real, but so is the birth, and that changes everything. The beast from the sea, a dark imitation of the sacred John, sees something rising from the waters. Not a normal creature, a beast with 10 horns, 7 heads, blasphemous names written on it. And the world marvels at it. What should cause fear and dread is applauded. The beast receives power from the dragon. It doesn't conquer through violence alone, but through seduction. It speaks eloquently, performs signs, dazzles the crowds. The Talmud, Soda 49b, says that in the days before redemption, the face of the generation will be like the face of a dog, an image without direction of its own. The beast represents a power that looks like authority, but is just a reflection of something else. Then a second beast appears, different, softer, with the appearance of a lamb, but the voice of a dragon. It points to the first, convinces, persuades, performs miracles, brings fire down from heaven, but it's all a performance. This second beast enforces the mark, a sign that determines who belongs to the system and who will be shut out. Without the mark, you don't buy, don't sell, don't belong. The sages speak of Hefker Olam, the moment when the world seems abandoned to chaos, but it's actually a test. The mark isn't just a symbol, it's a spiritual choice. And here lies the secret. The beast is a parody of the Messiah. It imitates, but does not transform. It seduces, but does not purify. John saw that the end won't just be a physical war, but a battle over truth itself. And only those who know the original will recognize the counterfeit, the bowls of wrath. When justice can wait no longer, John sees heaven open again, but this time not to reveal glory. 7 angels appear with 7 bowls, each one carrying judgment. It's not revenge, it's response, because every injustice that rises will one day fall as a decree. The Torah says the cup of iniquity fills slowly, Genesis 15-16, but when it overflows, it cannot be held back. The first bowl touches those who bore the mark of the beast. Sores appear, open wounds. What once felt like safety becomes a curse. The sages teach, whatever a person worships becomes their judge. Those who took the mark are now reaping its consequence. The waters, symbols of life, begin to die. Sea, rivers, springs all turn to blood. It's a reversal of the Exodus. If Egypt once suffered, now it's the whole earth. The Midrash compares the blood in the waters to the cries of the innocent that were never heard. Now, creation cries back. The sun, once warm, now burns. But even in the pain, people do not repent. They blaspheme. They resist. The Zohar teaches that when a heart grows too hard, not even fire can purify it. Justice knocks, but no one opens. And then the final bowl. The earth shakes. Babylon falls. The city of pride, control, and commerce collapses. But it's not just a city that falls. It's a system, everything built away from the light, breaks under the weight of its own darkness. And John understands, God's justice doesn't fail. It only waits. Armageddon. When heaven comes down to earth, John sees the moment all the prophets glimpsed. But few understood. The nations gather. The armies march. The whole earth prepares for a war it doesn't comprehend. But it's not just a war between kingdoms. It's the reckoning between the false throne and the true one. The place is called Armageddon, a valley that has seen many battles, but none like this. The kings of the earth believe they are in control. They come with arrogance, banners, and strategy. But heaven is silent because something greater is about to descend. And then he comes. The sky splits open. Light bursts forth. Riding a white horse, the one called Faithful and True. His eyes like flames. His voice like rushing waters. He does not come to plead. He comes to reign. The army with him carries no human weapons. They are beings of light, consecrated spirits. His sword is in his mouth, the word that divides truth from illusion. The Zohar says the Messiah conquers not by force, but by the presence of absolute truth. And before that, deception unravels. The false prophet falls, the beast is judged, and the dragon is cast into the abyss. The war ends the way it began, with a word, and the world finally sees who is king, not the one who shouts the loudest, but the one who carried light from the beginning. If this truth stirred something in you, don't let it slip away. Subscribe now and turn on the bell. The battle isn't over, and the light is the millennial kingdom. When time learns to rest after the battle comes silence. But this time, not of fear, of peace. John sees what the prophets longed for, a healed world ruled by justice. 1,000 years of reign without war, without deception, without masks. It is the Shabbat of history. The rest creation has longed for since Eden. The serpent has been silenced. The throne is filled by the one who overcame. The nations are healed. The peoples walk in the light of truth. The Talmud Sanhedrin 9:9a says the world will endure 6 millennia of labor and 1 of rest. This is the 7th, the time to restore what was lost. There is no hunger, no tears, no rush. The earth blooms again like it did in the beginning. Every soul finds its place, and every task becomes a form of prayer. The sages say that in this time the divine presence won't just be felt, it will be seen. The Torah will be lived fully, not as law but as light. The most beautiful part of this vision isn't just what happens outside, but within. Hearts once divided become whole. The soul recognizes the one who formed it. The Midrash says that in this age, even the trees will sing. Everything returns to its original tone, the sound of Eden. And maybe that time hasn't fully come yet, but it's already at the door, because the kingdom begins when someone submits to the king. John saw what awaits us, but the choice to live that peace begins now, inside you, still calling those with eyes to see. The final attempt. When evil is released one last time, John sees something few would understand. After 1,000 years of peace, evil is released once again. The dragon, once bound, returns to the stage. And the most terrifying thing is that many follow him. Even after living in the light, many still choose the darkness. But why? The sages teach that true choice only exists where there is freedom. Free will doesn't disappear in the millennial kingdom. The Talmud says God desires the heart, not just the actions, Sanhedrin 106b, and so, even in the end, humanity is tested. Satan gathers the crowds, armies rise once again, illusion spreads like smoke, but before the first strike is thrown, fire falls from heaven. Judgment is now immediate, final. There's no more room for deception. The dragon is thrown into the lake of fire. He will not return. The lie is ended. Temptation is destroyed. The dark story of rebellion ends in the eternal presence. And with that, a new book opens, because now comes judgment. Not as a threat, but as final truth. Every soul before the throne, every name before the book, and what is written cannot be erased. Now the light reveals all, the new creation. When all things are restored, John saw the end, but he also saw the new beginning. A new heaven, a new earth, nothing impure, no tears, no memory of pain. The first world passed like night before the sun, and now everything truly begins. The new Jerusalem descends from heaven like a bride adorned. Its streets have no darkness, no need for lamp or sun, because the light there comes from God Himself. The Torah is no longer just studied, it's lived with every breath, and the name that was once hidden now dwells among us. There is no more separation between heaven and earth. What was distant is now close. What was mystery is now presence. The Midrash says, "The Holy One, blessed be He, will prepare a new world where the righteous will walk with Him like friends." That's the world John saw. The nations walk in peace. Time no longer wounds. Death has no power. And every being knows its place in the divine harmony. Creation sings again, like Eden, and then John hears the final voice, "Behold, I come quickly." That promise still echoes. And maybe while you were listening, something in you already knew, because that new world begins in the heart of the one who believes. What John saw is now set before you, not as fantasy, but as a choice. The new creation doesn't begin with explosions, but with a whisper, with a decision, with a soul that chooses to walk in the light, even while surrounded by darkness. If something awakened in you while listening, don't ignore that call. Subscribe now and turn on the bell, because the next video isn't just content, it's another key that may unlock something deep within you. And never forget this: the end of darkness doesn't come through grand gestures, but through small lights lit day by day. Practical exercise for the next 3 nights before sleep. Pause for 2 minutes. Close your eyes and whisper, "Let your light shine in me." Even when the world grows dark, notice what shifts inside you. The new creation begins quietly, like a seed,